Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Brothers and sisters, we all send our children to some sort of part-time Islamic education after school, in the evenings and on weekends, from a very young age up to a certain point. Now, the norm is that people start their children's education at 5 or 6 years of age, and then they finish at 13, 14, 15. By 15, the vast majority of young people finish their Islamic education in maktab or madrasa, in the masjid with a local tutor, etc. And then usually that's it, right? They get busy with their GCSEs, their A-levels, they have their own mind, they don't want to go or not, but generally there is a kind of consensus that it doesn't go on beyond that. Up to about 13, 14 years of age for boys, and younger for girls, because sometimes because of puberty, etc., some people in some cultures stop their girls' education earlier. But up to that point, according to some statistics, about 70% of our children go to some form of Islamic education, which is great. However, on what basis do we justify their Islamic education stopping at the age of 14, 15? What is the justification for this? Do they no longer need an Islamic education? Like, if you've been educated until the age of 14, then you're okay, you're cool. From an Islamic point of view, you don't need any other education. Everything you need to know, you now know, and we can leave it to you. As a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, you can now get on with your life. Do we apply that principle to anything else in their lives? I mean, does their secular education stop, or does it continue? What's going on here? What is the rationale? So I would say that we have an amazing achievement, particularly in the UK, where the vast majority of children are educated up until 14, 15. Then we have this colossal slump, a letdown, some sort of a brain freeze, actually, collective brain freeze, where we decide that when they reach an age where they are the most vulnerable, where they're about to go through puberty, their hormones are going to be racing, their sexual attraction is has already kind of started to mature. They need guidance on a huge host of things that they haven't yet experienced in life. And just at this sensitive time, they have no Islamic guidance, they have no teachers, nothing. It's assumed that what they learn at 12, 13, 14 is going to be sufficient for 15, 16, 17, 18, right? So that's one aspect. Then you have the issue of they're about to go into the serious end of their GCSE studies. Then they're going to go into college, study their A-levels, depending on what subjects they study. And generally, they're going to be exposed to ideas that are antithetical to Islam, ideas that are going to shake their faith, shake their iman, instill doubts inside of them towards Islam. They're going to start adopting various political ideas, the various social ideas. They will develop some degree of liberal values and ideas. Just depend, how much, it depends on their background, depends on whether their Islamic education has indeed continued to some extent or not. Things like that, right? But yet, the vast majority of young people at that time have no guidance, right? They have no Islamic education other than if they hear the odd Jummah khutbah, or if they happen to hear a YouTube lecture and so on. But that stuff's, it's random, right? There's no formal education. You don't rely on random talks when it comes to their GCSEs, when it comes to their A-levels, when it comes to any other aspect of their formal education. Why are random talks on YouTube and the odd book here and there enough when it comes to their Islamic education? So there is a problem. I think you'll all agree with me that there is a massive gap in our provision. So I've been thinking about this for a long time, and in order to address this gap, acknowledging kind of what they're going through at this stage in their lives in terms of their education, they're getting busier and busier, there's pressures and expectations and so on. With all of that in mind, I decided, let's fill this gap with something that's appropriate, that takes into consideration their context and their reality. And with that in mind, I'm introducing the youth mentoring program, right? It's for 14 to 18-year-olds. It is sustained and formal in the sense that it is a program that's for a whole academic year. It's not kind of some, informal set of lectures or anything like that. All those things are useful, but I don't believe that's really education of any kind, nor is it mentoring of any kind. This is a mixture of education and mentoring for that particular age group. And the basic idea is that they will spend 2 hours with a mentor, a scholar of Islam who understands their reality, their context, perhaps has gone through it themselves. And there will be some formal learning. There'll be some courses that they will go through the whole year, and then there'll be so an hour will be learning, an hour will be weekly talking sessions, informal conversation, discussions about anything and everything under the sun, what they're going through. There'll be some coordination, so the mentor will bring up topics every week and so on, and they'll be allowed to ask whatever they want. It'll be a safe space where they can talk about, matters of puberty if they want, matters of sexuality, matters of doubts about Islam, just generally current affairs issues and so on. Along with those two aspects, there will be an annual cycle of one-to-one meetings that will be objectives and target based. So there will be a personal development program that they'll go through that will be somewhat self-managed, but a lot of the topics that will be covered in the 2 hours will tie into some of the targets set in the personal development program. So there'll be targets around students having a worship routine, building up good habits like reading good books, doing some voluntary work, things like that basically. And there'll be one-to-one sessions with them, mentoring sessions, not a lot, 2 or 3 a year, that will allow them to speak privately about private issues, but also there'll be the monitoring of their progress in the personal development program, which will be very individualized. Of course, their mentor will be available whenever they need help for anything. There'll be access through chat and so on. So this is the program, the youth mentoring program. So I invite anyone who is a young person of that age watching this, or a parent of a young person who is 14 to 18 years of age, to look into this, enroll yourself, or enroll your sons and daughters onto this program. My vision is that every young person should have access to some form of mentoring throughout their teenage years, right, until they reach an age of maturity. I say to my son, I consider you to have reached full maturity when you take decisions based on an Islamic moral compass. That doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't just, something like that doesn't drop out of the sky. It requires mentoring, coaching, a lot of guidance in order to get a young person to that point. Now, if you're providing that as a parent and you're confident with the kind of mentoring and guidance that you're providing, fantastic. If not, you need a program like this, brothers and sisters. So enroll young people onto it. The youth mentoring program is a kind of soft touch, very manageable, minimum contact time program. For the academically gifted young people, there will be another program called the Learned Youth Program that you can also look into, inshallah ta'ala.